Hello and welcome everybody to the January 27th Octant community meeting. We have some updates to talk about today. We'll be talking about Electron again. We'll also be talking about what we're going to be doing after this Electron release. And then we want to show just some community membership stuff around. We finally put to words what it like, how and what it means to become a approver or contributor to Octant. So with that, I will get started. Electron again. Yes, that is true. We have, let's see, we have a project board, which is actually linked down here, but I'll relink it again. But this is our O.17 project board, which is on GitHub, and it shows the issues that are in progress and outstanding. So a couple of these are not blockers to the O.17 release. They just happen to also be in progress. So if they happen to finish, then they will be part of the release. But if they do not finish, then they won't be. But these are the currently known, yet to be started work that we want to make sure is part of the O.17 release. And this is what we have in flight right now, the couple things that Milan and Sam are working on. So it is very close. We just yesterday and this morning started merging in a lot of just like the quality of life fixes that came up pretty immediately after we did our build. Sam and Milan and myself, we just fired it up and found some of these things. So you can see these PRs that are landing are very small. They're just little things, but they do make the experience just actually feel like an application and better. So we're making sure that those get put in there. I think that this is pretty up to date. We've been updating it almost daily with any new issues that come up as we're using it. So my sense on this is that barring any major discoveries that we just weren't expecting, we should be looking pretty good to release O.17 very, very soon. Been saying soon for a long time. And it also feels longer than it actually really has been because of the holiday break that was in there, where it's like, so two of the weeks since 0.16.3 where people were completely off, but still it definitely longer. One of the longest ones, I think the only one that was longer than this was our was O.10, which was like one of the very first ones. So be glad to get back to a little bit more tighter release cycle, a little more iterative. So anything that you or Milan, Sam or Milan, that you all wanted to add?
I just want to say it's a big release too, right? I mean, once it's available, there's a lot of new things. So I'm excited about that. And I'm also worried about Monaco. I'm still working on that. Monaco is just as usual pain. So hopefully we'll resolve that and some other things and release soon.
All right. So with that, I was going.
You're muted, Vane.
Am I still muted now? Okay. Yeah. So with that, I was gonna do a quick demo of the Octant or Electron. So let me see if I can get that pulled up here. Oh yeah, I see. So there's I will say that there is going to be actually let me, this won't take long. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to I'm building the latest version just to be sure that it has all the stuff we've merged recently. So while that is building, I will reshare the notes and we can cover cover kind of what's coming up next after Electron while that builds. So after Electron, so that's kind of a, I worded that wrong. That's poor wording. That really, Electron is the future after 0.17. So 0.18 and beyond. So we've created a project board for 0.18 and have started to kind of catalog some of the work we're going to be doing there. I highly recommend folks go and take a look at the specific issues if they're interested and there's something that maybe is a priority to you that you don't see in this list yet. I highly recommend just commenting on the issue and say, hey, this would be great. I would like to be able to use this in the next release, or this is a blocker for me, or this is just something we've been wanting to do. That would help us a lot. Just your feedback on that. The other thing is we've been talking about it for a while, and the 0.18 release will be just that famous clip of Steve Ballmer saying developers will be doing plugins. Plugin API, plugin documentation, getting test harnesses for plugins, improving the experience of using some of the components within the plugins, mainly around the stepper component, forms, handling actions, doing multi-step type interactions, like stateful type actions with the user. We know that right now it's a little difficult to do and requires you basically gotta have like a lot of intimate knowledge of Octant and know kind of how its internal request loop works and know to like store that state off somewhere in global state of your plugin, and then you manage it as the actions requests come in, and then you have to make sure that your action names are like action step 1, action step 2, action step 3, so you like know what step a user might be on. We'll be able to make that whole experience a lot better. I think the stepper component is kind of going to end up getting revamped a little bit to just have a more opinionated way to use it for the most common work case, which is I have a step, and that step either has some local validation and or an action to validate it. And that action must return a positive response, a valid, like true or false. And then I will, I can pass that into my stepper, which is being rendered on the polling loop. And then it will render step 1 or insert the error messages or render step 2 or insert the error messages into step 1. Just to go over that again, the stepper component, each step, for those who haven't seen it, actually, let me just pull it up. It's probably easier to do. So this is what I'm talking about, is the stepper component. And you can see like right now we can do local validation, and there are actions associated with that. But the way it currently works right now is when you actually do fill this thing out, and also, so if I get this wrong, someone correct me, but when you fill this out and you hit next, that clicking of that next button doesn't send an action anywhere yet. It's the actual submit button that will then take all of this and send it to this action, because you see the action is at the config level, not at the step level. And that action will stay, but we'll also be adding actions at the step level. And then when we add actions at the step level, what we want to do is we want to create helpers that know how to then render error messages onto your each step, so that when you capture an action from a step and it's not valid, there's an easy way to go and say the stepper that you're looking at with the state that it currently has, insert this error, right? And right now there's not a good way to do that. You kind of have to build it yourself. And we want some way to make that easy. I don't know what that API looks like yet. I don't know exactly how that flow is going to work. But we know that that is something that a lot of people want to be able to do. It's something that I've personally wanted to be able to do in my plugins is, this local validation like that, that's fine. But really there's also probably some server side validation I want to be able to do. Like, okay, I enter the name Wayne and then I click next, and that's supposed to be a unique field on the server side, right? Instead of allowing the user to go through to step 2 and 3 and 4, and then you send them all the way back and you say, it's not a unique name, right? That's just a bad experience. So we want to enable more like rich experiences like that. And then there's also some inconsistencies with the plugin API. These are all, that one's in our backlog right now. The list behavior is inconsistent, which is absolutely true. Right, because this is a side effect of the, what's the word I want to use to this? We'll just say the attempt to better handle permission, access denied to resources. That the current attempt that is in Octant that I did is not great. It's slow, has a lot of overhead, and it does this here, which is it makes the list behavior inconsistent. The first request to a list will tell you access denied. That will get cached. And to avoid hitting the API again, we just return an empty response. Instead of caching the server response that we got and continuing to return the actual server response. So then your plugin could be written to just handle the error and move on. We change the behavior and it's inconsistent. It's awful. So this is 100% my fault. So that's those kind of inconsistencies in behavior are things we're going to fix up. I believe all of our API endpoints suffer from this because of the way we do access checking. So we're going to audit that and make sure that you can depend on the behavior and that the errors are getting surfaced to you, even if we're not getting them from the API in real time, because we don't want to spam the API. You'll still get the previous error, or there'll be some method where you'll get the error that was originally returned. And then when the back off timer kind of expires and it tries again, that'll either work or you'll get the updated error. Adding some consistencies between our Go plugin API and the JavaScript one. The JavaScript one had some newer features, like link refs and what else was there? Is it deleting or applying? That's not in the Go side. I can't remember exactly. I think there's a couple API calls that are not on the Go side of things, and folks would like to use them, and that makes sense. So, the plugin state. Right now, the plugin, when you start up a plugin, this is mostly for the JavaScript ones, but when you start a plugin, if it's at launch time, like you're just launching Octant and you load the plugin, it gets all the information it needs. It knows the context and the namespace and all this stuff, because that gets sent in from the client on the first request. And then we pass it into the action handler and you can capture it. If you're developing your plugin and it's hot reloading, when it hot reloads, it's not going to receive that event because there was no set namespace event fired. And now it has no idea what the namespace is. So you just have to wait until a set namespace event happens, or until a request comes in that has a namespace with it, and then you assume that that's the namespace you want to be on. But again, the more inconsistent behavior. So we're going to add initialization event that plugins can subscribe to, and they will then, anytime they're reloaded, so on their first initial load, that event will always fire. So it'll come from the plugin API side, the plugin manager, will make sure that anytime it's loading a plugin, it'll fire this event. And that event will include the current context, the namespace, probably like the current path, because we know the content path as well. Basically all the thing, any action that is configurable by a user during their time running Octant. So setting the namespace, switching contexts, changing paths, things like that. That'll be part of, so anything that gets sent into Octant, that'll be part of that initial context. And that'll let plugin authors actually like be able to keep in sync with what's happening in Octant. Do you have a question, Sam?
Yeah, I don't want to derail from, I guess, to just like what the issue of 5.15.13 too much. I think it's that problem is more of a symptom of something bigger. Something that I've noticed when writing plugins myself is that because Octant is always pulling, all the code in a plugin is pretty much run every time Octant pulls, which is like once every 5 seconds or something, right? And really the thing that we want, or I feel like the thing that I've been wanting there is just some sort of init loop, right? Like some code that I can only expect to run once when it is starting, and to do all the, for example, just setups, like if I'm connecting to an API, make sure it's connected and make sure it's good. And that same logic with initializing plugins, like say the current namespace and path could all live there, right? Like just some place in a plugin where I can expect things to run only once, like kind of like a main function, as opposed to something that I have to just make sure it doesn't get called again and again. Like I think, for example, John Harris, I believe, he was trying to do a Harbor plugin, and he once said, I guess, pretty basically like spammed the Harbor API as a result, right? So just like making that explicit, I think, would also be helpful to help a lot of plugin authors develop the mental model of what a plugin is actually doing.
Yeah, I think that's a great call out. That to me, that's definitely a documentation issue and less implementation issue, because I have examples of plugins both in Go and TypeScript where I have out of band initialization and state, and I'm using like I in my main before I kick off my server process and my plugin, I fire off my Go routine that's going to run in its own time and is not interrupted by the requests that come in by the in the handlers, right? Like it's really the handlers are what are going to get called every second. But like in the JavaScript plugin, the constructor only gets called once. And in the Go plugin, that main routine only gets called once, right? So those are the places that you can do that first time initialization, first time setup. And then you can take that and you can save it off in global state somewhere, or you can, if you need to do things on a different cycle than that 1 second loop, you can spin off your own Go routines to manage that other event loop. So that, to me, that's the solution, is getting that pattern documented both so that plugin authors understand that the handler methods are going to get called once a second, but also here are the places in both runtimes where you can set up and manage your own state and event loops. What do you think about that?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, we can always, documentation is always a thing, right? Like it's something that we always need to improve upon. And I know you have those examples. I was wondering if perhaps maybe we even like expose it as like a first class thing, right? Like not even have to have authors create their own Go routines, or maybe it is fine the way it is. I'd have to think about that a little bit more. Like I'd even say like have like a very explicit, or I guess maybe what I'm trying to say is like an explicit plugin structure that says this is going to run once, rather than actually having to think about it. But maybe that's just adding complexity to places where it doesn't need to be.
Yeah, I think convention here is probably the best choice. because by just creating, by making sure that authors, that anyone who's writing a plugin just knows that knowledge, right? Like that knowledge is right in your face. Any handler method is going to get called once a second, and action handlers are only going to get called when an action that you've registered your plugin for is broadcasted, right? And then we can show patterns of like init once or run once, whatever, and then like you have your run once method that's in main that runs once and does your setup or kicks off your event loop. And I think just like making that such a common convention that it's just the way people do it when they copy the example plugin, or when they copy, like getting into the example plugin, I think would be a big benefit, right? Just getting some out of band event loop processing and state holding in the example plugin would be a good first step. A lot of people use that as like their boilerplate to get started. So I think putting it there would kind of create that convention. And then the nice thing about that is then we don't have to, there's no, people are free to do it in any fashion that meets their needs, instead of like, oh, I'm trying to do this, but the way because I have to use this init function that runs once, I can't. The example I always go to for like the best convention that anyone has ever seen that people just is in Python, where you have your methods and the first argument is always self. It's not enforced. No, there's literally the interpreter doesn't care what you call it, but literally everyone does it. And I like, anytime you can get that, that's way better than having some explicit model that might not work for other people. But yeah, no, I think that's a good call out. I do think it is confusing to a lot of people when they first write a plugin that their method is getting called every second. So yeah, what else were we? Plugins, inconsistencies, new APIs. Oh yeah, this again goes back to the state thing, but currently, like if you've restarted a plugin and or like labels, filters, stuff like that, there's no real good way to observe labels and filters changing from a plugin. You can kind of like, you can be on the actions, but then again, if it reloads and those are set, then you're not using the right label filter. So let's see. Oh, this one just came up. I actually configuring the default items for page via preferences. That makes a lot of sense. Like, I know we allow you to set the items per page, but that you just, hopefully we'll be able to just remember it somewhere. Anyway. So yeah, lots of plugin stuff, lots of resource viewer stuff. Isha and Milan have been doing a lot of work around resource viewer visualization and updates. And we are going to start kind of writing out the first step issues, like, hey, what are the incremental steps that we can take to realize our resource viewer dreams? So I'm not sure if there's anything Milan wanted to add there, but that's coming.
No, yeah, it's coming up.
And this is my favorite part, honestly. So after O.17, and we are producing this Electron binary, everyone's going to be like, there'll be a host of people who are going to be still running the old, binary where you open a web browser. And that'll still exist for a while. But we're letting you know that eventually the only release we will ship will be the Electron release eventually. So just know that that's coming. There'll still be binaries of the Octant runtime in our nightly builds, and those will always be available. But to simplify our release pipeline and to make things easier when it comes to package managers and installs and all of that, as we continue down this path of Electron, we will be in the release tag. So like when you go and you come into Octant and you go to releases, right? This will be eventually will be the Electron binaries. Probably my guess is either we'll start to be louder about it in 18, we'll be even louder about it in 19. And then we will probably do something like that for either whatever the release is before we go to 1.0. It'll have already happened. So by the time 1.0 comes out, the only release asset will be an Electron build. But we'll be very loud about it and continue to yell about it. Both on we're going to have blogs and also the stream here, the blogs, everywhere. We'll be yelling about it. So just know that it's coming. But the advantage of that, and why I think a lot of people will, people hate change, but ultimately I think they'll see the advantage of this change in a lot of ways. And the first ways, what I'm hoping to target for 0.18, which would be the second release since we're moving to Electron, auto updates. I think it's like a fundamental part of why we want to be on Electron is to be able to do that. Because that will really, there's two parts of this. The one is just, for us, it will really tighten up our ability to release quickly. Like this last release was not slow because of anything in our pipeline. This last release was slow because the Electron stuff took longer than we planned for. But in the past, we definitely had like point releases and security fixes where it's like a whole, like the issue, the report comes in, the thing gets merged within an hour. And if we had an auto update system, we could get that out to people. And what happens now is all the package managers have to update, and some of them are faster than others, and they're great tools, but some of them can be painfully slow to get the update in there. And so, even when we do get quick turnaround on a bug fix, we'll get the same report for 2-3 days, even after the release is out. And then we're like, oh, well, have you updated your cache and cleared your cache and refreshed and fetched a new list? And then, then it kind of whittles down and people have the latest release. And so just being able to get things out quicker, right directly to folks, and take advantage of that tighter like cycle I'm very excited for it. Like I think it will really change the way we ship a lot of stuff with Octant. We'll hold on to less for a period of time, because another part of kind of just how I like, because we have to go through all the steps of updating all the package managers, I prefer releases to be like of substance, right? And so I'm like, oh, we did this little incremental thing that maybe a couple of people care about. Well, I don't want to go do the brew and chocolatey, so we'll just hold it until we get a few more things. And this will remove that barrier where I'll just be, I'll just fire out an update. So not that we won't update those package managers, but people who are on a release that has auto update enabled will get the change, right? So, and then the thing that I'm excited for as well is just the better system tray. Getting to a point where Octant is just kind of there running, is something that I'm excited about. Getting to a point where Octant is there running, and then this is a pipe dream I'm about to talk about, but like Octant's there running in the system tray. You you run a gcloud command, which puts in a new kubeconfig in place, and then you get a little system notification that says, hey, Octant now has access to this cluster. Would you like to view it? And you click and you pull up your new cluster and it's there. Or you're in Octant and you have some resource that you're working on and you click it and you say, notify me if this thing returns anything but okay. And then you just minimize Octant and go away, right? And you start hacking and you're deploying and and then it pops up and it goes, oh, there's an error. And you're like, oh, my apply command messed something up. I don't even have to go do a status check or look, right? Octant just notified you that the thing you just applied didn't work like you thought. And then you pull it up and it takes you right to your resource or your resource viewer, and there's the red item and you're in, right? Like having these integrations into the operating system, having Octant running and being tied into the notification system and having a tray, like it really is really going to enhance the experience, like this operating environment that we can kind of provide around Kubernetes and development. So I'm really excited for that. That was a lot for a thing that just says better system tray. But it's very exciting to me. And the last one is plugin management. Even just a simple being able to like go to a thing in the file drop down that says plugins and it opens up the folder, right? And just being like, even that's better than what we have now, which is like, go find this dot folder that's hidden away or this app data folder that's hidden. Like little simple things like that will be a huge advancement. I know Sam had some ideas around plugin management once we were running an Electron. I think being able to like drag and drop and manage the actual binaries and things like that directly from Octant, which I also think would be great. So is there anything else that other folks are excited about as we move to this, being an actual application?
Less work.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, like, so like, I think the coolest part about this is that like a lot of what we've been doing up to this point, right, is kind of like almost even prep work, right? Like we haven't really cashed in on why we think this client-sided model is great up until now, which sounds crazy to talk about, right? But it's almost even like a year ago, we said we had to have all these things done before we could even do Electron, and now we're here. And now this is kind of like the point where we can really start taking off and start putting in like the Kubernetes smarts, right? Like up until now, even like, like we've been like writing printers, right? Like I really hated when we have to say Octant is kind of like an augmented kubeconfig, because yeah, that's technically what it is now, but it's not really selling the it's not really selling the project very well. And even like up until this point, right? Like I see a lot of use cases of, oh, I'm hosting Octant on a Bastion host and I'm going to have my whole team logging on, or like I want to run Octant in a pod, and really it's like that's missing the whole point. And by forcing this model, we're going to lose some users, but at the same time, we're really going to start diving into why we did things the way we did and start really cashing in on like the whole point of this model. And there's some really cool stuff, like like we're gonna actually add the Kubernetes smarts. I think there are even some stuff that we talked about in the past, like having like autocomplete when people are writing YAML, better ways to apply, right? Like there's gonna be a bunch of great stuff coming up. So super stoked for that coming up, and finally just moving on past this Electron stuff and really just getting back to talking about Kubernetes.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's great. Okay, so I think I actually forgot that I was gonna do this demo. So let me let me make sure that that works, and then I will, I'll do it. Let's see, does it work? No, it doesn't. Of course it doesn't. Because I just rebuilt it right now. So why? Of course it doesn't work. Let's see. You can't. I'm typing into a terminal. I'm just trying to, it's par for the course. Okay, I will try one more build on that, and then if anyone else has it running and wants to show it, let me know. Off the latest master in particular, because it has all of those quality of life things we merged in. In the meantime, or do you have it, Sam?
Yeah, I have everything besides the donut chart thing that was merged a few seconds ago. I think actually, I might not even have rebuilt it. Let me see if that quit window's in there.
All right. Well, yeah. You check, and I will. We'll just go. We'll do this last item on here, and then we'll see if any of us can scrape together between us can scrape together a demo. The last item, which is a very important one to me, I mentioned it earlier in the year. I think at our first community meeting when we were back from the new year, specifically around community membership. So this was published just today, but what the goal here was to kind of define, okay, what role do we have in the Octant community? And honestly, with being a smaller community and not really having the need at this moment for a whole expansive set of roles, we settled kind of just on this like approver role, which is where most people end up falling if they contribute to the project enough. And approvers can review and approve contributions, and but now we've put to that kind of like, okay, what are the requirements? Well, you're sponsored by 2 approvers and you have multiple contributions to the project. And what does it mean to get this role? It means you get commit access to the Octant repository. So one of the things about this is we've also kind of outlined, okay, here are the actual requirements for this in like concrete numbers. Like you do these things and you get sponsored, and then you go open an issue, right? Which we added an issue template for to make it really easy. So when you go new, there is now this become an Octant approver. I wonder if there's a way to reorder these. I think they're alphabetical, which is fortunate, but so that one's at the top. But when you click here, you now get this template, right? And that template has the kind of the checklist to go through, the sponsors to list, your username, and then your list of contributions. And so this is exactly the one way to become an official approver for the Octant project. It's very exciting. We've never really had language around it before. And I think that has caused a lot of folks to kind of just be hesitant to get involved and like not understand their impact and what it means to be a contributor to Octant, an approver on Octant. And so we fixed that. And yeah, I think it's really great. I think this will encourage folks to kind of get a little bit more involved and understand, what it means to be involved. So I don't know if anyone has anything to add to that. All right, cool. Oh, and we put in explicit language around inactivity as well. Just, if you're inactive for 12 months, then we don't remove you from the record. We do remove your access, but so it's kind of cataloged here. We have these folks who previously contributed to the project at the approver level, and so your name is still here, and you're still remembered as someone who was approving and contributing at a high level to the project. But we don't want to have a bunch of people just hanging out with access. So it's all there. Trying to think. I think that covers everything on the agenda that I had. Were there any before we try to put together a demo, were there any questions for the open Q&A? All right. I'm going to try running mine one more time and see if it works.
And if not, I have the nightly from, I have last night's nightly running already.
Oh, well, then I'll just hand it off here. I'll just stop sharing and Sam can share it.
All right, cool. You know what? I'll share everything. I have nothing to hide. All right. Let's see this window. All right, is this zoomed in okay? I have to share everything because there's the menu stuff up top here that needs to be shared. Okay, cool. So this is the Electron build. So biggest things here are that when it's running Electron, if you look at here, it's actually got the icon tray. So it actually shows up as Octant.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you minimize or move the zoom box that's sitting over
thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was making like a black square artifact on the screen. It still kind of is, but whatever. It's better.
Could make it go away. It's not going to go away. It doesn't want to go away.
Of course not. Why would it?
It's minimized already. Okay. Well, too bad. It's hanging out now. Yeah. So you can kind of see, it's got the sys icons. My side tray won't pop up right now because I guess I'm sharing the screen, but you can see the Octant logo on your system tray. That's pretty dope. Cool stuff. Let's see. So going through this menu that was added recently, I think Scott was the one who pointed out that we used the default menu and went to electron.dev. Now it goes to octant.dev. Got the zoom controls here. We've got the logs. Let's see, and it would just pop out and takes you to your logs in temp. It's in root. I actually don't even know if these would open, but we'll just leave that alone for now. Quit. So yeah, we added the quit menu yesterday. What other things do we want to see? The scroll bars are implemented, but it specifically looks nicer on Electron, I guess. So like used to have the browser scroll bars, and now you have the minimalist simple bar that's kind of used also in a few places. Quick switcher still works. We've got cluster API set up here. The core functionality doesn't change. I don't think I have any plugins running here at the moment, except the sample plugin. So yeah, sample plugin is running, and it's the same old Octant you know and love. The new nav is still here. We're probably going to have to bubble up the keyboard shortcuts or have some duplication to show it up here as well. Or we can even actually remove it altogether. So this is another case of having both the web app and the Electron can potentially clash, or maybe not. I think like other Electron applications also show this menu twice. So we can start deciding like what things should belong up here. And there's no system Octant tray yet, but we can add that pretty soon. And then we can also decide what belongs up there, right? It would be like quit, or it'd be kind of cool if we can have like a jump to context situation. Same old thing, and we can look at things like, like say, like what these Docker machines, kubeatom. I think machine deployments, that's the one that's interesting to people because it's got the most stuff, right? But we're still working on resource viewer. We have YAML. As we know, the monocle editor isn't working, so it just kind of hangs out here forever. You can still use dev tools if you want to see console logging and know what happens in the background. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You can still do all the other
screen. It'll remember its size if you resize the window and close it and then reopen it, it'll kind of remember its size and position.
Oh yeah, we can actually do it. So I did that. Here, yeah, let's do it again. So it should only take half the screen, and it did. Beautiful.
Yeah. was like, please work. I think long-term, we'll probably end up removing the, like the file edit help bar and putting in like similar to what like Slack and other applications do, where they put in their own custom menu. I think for us, that's going to overall work better because we, there's going to be things in that custom menu, just like those shortcuts and other things that we'll want to have be part of it'll be easier to have be part of the web app.
Yeah, I should go to help menu, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this thing could probably even go away altogether pretty soon.
Yep.
Yeah, most of this stuff probably is going to be redundant. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Any questions or anything specifically people want to see?
No, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's great. I just wanted folks to see that their experience is going to be essentially unchanged, to just be a little better. Actually, you won't have to go hunt through the terminal for info, and you won't have to find that browser tab, and like there's a lot of benefits even just in the first release.
Yeah. Dark mode. Still
No, from my initial playing around with it, it's been really awesome with the nightly builds. Huge update using Electron. It's awesome.
Yeah, you taking the time to try out the nightlies, and yeah, that's exciting to hear. That's great news.
Yeah, the one thing that did come up, because I'm now running it on my Windows machine, and I've always been running it just on a Linux machine. With the initial asking for a kube config the first time that I ran it, which was great, it takes a long time on Windows to find where that kube config is saved in the app data local, and not in a really findable location. And I'm wondering if it's possible or something that would be useful for others, possibly, to have the ability to either have that form come up as a manual task in an action form of apply a new kube config if it's coming from that app data location, or to allow where it should be saved, or at least have it documented where it gets saved on Windows. Because it's not straightforward that it's in the app data local temp location where it saves that temp kube config when you just paste in text on a Windows machine.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Would you mind putting that into an issue? Because then we can like just essentially what you just described, I think, because I think we can come up with a good fix for that.
Yeah, definitely. I'll open an issue for that today.
Awesome. Thank you.